Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Cavan-Smith. Tonight, the biggest name to be caught up in Abiy Ahmed's bid to clean up Ethiopia's political and military establishment is arrested on the border with Sudan. Brigadier General Kinfe Dagnew, the former chief of the military-run Metals and Engineering Corporation of Ethiopia, is detained as part of a multi-billion-dollar corruption probe. Also, sending the wrong message. The MP chosen to represent several opposition parties in DR Congo's elections next month says the party leaders who've now backed out of the deal are letting Congolese people down. Martin Fayulu is still hopeful, though, that it can still be salvaged. And we meet the winner of our sister radio station, RFI's Challenge App Afrique Award, a competition set up to find the best app design in French-speaking Africa, catering to the needs of the region. But first, the former head of an Ethiopian military-run conglomerate has been arrested at the border with Sudan and Eritrea. Brigadier General Kinfe Dagnew was flown back to Addis on Tuesday following a 5-month-long investigation into alleged corruption at METEC, the Metals and Engineering Corporation. Now, it's believed to be behind about $2 billion worth of improperly issued projects. Kinfe's been caught up in an across-the-board crackdown on corruption and human rights violations within the establishment. At least 63 officials have been arrested since last week. Well, Coletta Wanjohi joins us now with more from Addis Ababa. Coletta, tell us more about why Kinfe's been arrested.
Well, Major General Kinfe was arrested because he was the former head of the state-owned Metals and Engineering Corporation that has now been accused of very high level of corruption. Under him, for the past 6 years, the corporation is said to have embezzled over $2 billion in illegally issued contracts. And also, the corporation is accused of buying 5 airplanes in a manner against proper bidding process. And as we speak now, the Attorney General said one airplane cannot be traced. It is also alleged that the corporation bought 2 ships valued at over $3.3 million and resold it later at a value of over $2.6 million. But these funds were not reflected in the corporation's account. They are also accused of illegal purchase of hotels, money laundering, and with Major Kinfe as having been the head of the corporation then before he resigned in April this year, he's likely to be charged with masterminding corruption under his watch.
Well, it's part of dozens of other METEC executives and intelligence and military officials who've recently been arrested. Tell us more about what's behind this wider crackdown. Why is it happening now?
Exactly. It is timely for the new Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, who took over power in April this year. We know that when he took over power, he promised several things. And one of the things under his reforms, he promised that he would give accountability and transparency. He promised that he would give reforms in the judiciary and specifically a non-discriminating judicial system. He also promised to do right by those whose rights had been violated for over 27 years by government security operatives through illegal detention, torture, and other abuses. So we're now seeing his government of Abiy Ahmed showing that it is walking the talk and it is determined to clean up the government system and put the citizens first. It is definitely not going to be a very easy task for him. We are expecting to see more harsh moves, but the fact that he has started touching people who are, or arresting people who are deemed as untouchables in the society for the past 27 years is giving hope to the citizenry that he is going in the right direction. So we are yet to see more implementation of his reforms, some harsh, some less harsh, but most definitely the majority of the citizens are happy about what he's doing.
Thanks very much. Coletta Wanjohi there for us in Addis Ababa. Now, the DR Congolese MP chosen as a unity candidate for several opposition parties in next month's election still has faith in the deal that selected him, even though it's already been shot down by some of the signatories. Martin Fayulu was chosen by leaders on Sunday, but by Monday, 2 parties announced that they'd already backed out. A joint ballot is seen as the opposition's best shot at defeating the ruling party candidate. Nicolas Chemin has more.
Congo's main opposition leaders had agreed on Sunday to field just one candidate in next month's presidential election. They chose this man, Martin Fayulu. But 24 hours later, 2 leaders, Félix Tshisekedi and Vital Kamerhe, made a dramatic U-turn and reneged on the deal. Fayulu gave his reaction to France 24 on Tuesday.
It can be considered a disappointment, but I'm staying positive. I asked my brothers Felix Tshisekedi and Vital Kamerhe to change their minds. They signed a pledge, but I'm not giving them an ultimatum.
The Kofi Annan Foundation that helped broker the deal has now published the leaders' pledges. They had vowed to end their political careers if they ever rejected the agreement. On the streets of Kinshasa, many Congolese expressed their deep resentment.
We need to recognize that these people in the opposition are fickle. They say one thing in the morning and another in the afternoon. It's sad. It shows immaturity on the part of Tshisekedi.
We should give Fayulu a chance, because if he were to win these elections, then later on, we can choose someone else, like Tshisekedi or Kamerhe. We shouldn't go back on this deal now, or we'll lose these elections. The disagreements among the opposition are paving the way for the victory of Kabila's ruling party.
Fayulu still hopes the two men will reverse their decision, but time is running out. The campaign begins in 10 days. For now, Fayulu still has the support of two opposition stalwarts who could not take part in the election, Moïse Katumbi and Jean-Pierre Bemba.
South Africa's Home Affairs Minister's quit after a High Court ruling last week found that he'd lied under oath. Malusi Gigaba was reprimanded over his testimony in 2017 in a court case about a wealthy family called the Oppenheimers bid to have a private terminal at Johannesburg Airport. Gigaba had recently vowed not to step down after being caught up in a leaked sex tape scandal. The close ally of Jacob Zuma's been linked to allegations of corruption under the ousted former president. 3 people have been killed and dozens wounded in a suicide attack in northern Mali. Al-Qaeda-linked Islamist group GSIM has claimed responsibility for blowing up a 4x4 in Gao on Monday night. They claim to have been targeting foreign troops. The country's been struggling to return to stability since 2012, when Islamist extremists took control of the north before being pushed back by a French military intervention. And finally, we meet the winner of our sister radio station, RFI's Challenge App Afrique Award. It was handed out on Tuesday during a special live recording of Radio France International's flagship program in Benin. The competition was set up to find the best app design in French-speaking Africa that caters to the needs of the region. This year's hopefuls had to come up with ways to tackle sustainable agriculture. Our correspondents report.
For the third year running, RFI is trying to cultivate young people in French-speaking Africa's interest in digital technology. The winners of the RFI Challenge App Afrique Award were invited onto the programme C'est pas du vent to showcase their prize-winning platforms. The show, which focuses on environmental protection and sustainable development, is recorded live at the French Institute of Cotonou in Benin. This year, the RFI Challenge App Award panel weighed up innovative solutions for agriculture. 70% of people in Francophone Africa depend on the sector for their livelihood.
We're seeing everything that's being done in the field of agriculture, irrigation. I think it's our job as an international Pan-African media to support and help these young people who have good ideas, talk about them and help them financially.
28-year-old Burkinabe Serge Auguste Zaongo walked away with this year's top prize. His app helps farmers measure moisture levels in soil and then calculates how much to water the land.
It allows the farmer, whatever his level of literacy, to use the app. This is why we developed 2 different functions. In advanced modes, there's a web application with a graphic interface that displays moisture levels and water readings. This allows us to know how much water is needed for specific crops and what nutrients it needs. But the basic modes is better suited to the farmer who doesn't have a high level of literacy.
With €15,000, or around 10 million CFA francs in prize money, the young engineer will now be able to develop and distribute his app across Burkina Faso. There's also a lot of scope to roll it out more widely across sub-Saharan Africa, as only 3% of cultivated land in the region is currently irrigated.
Well, that's it for Iron Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.
You might watch France 24 in English, but don't forget, France 24 is also broadcast in French, Arabic, and Spanish.
Muy buenas tardes, bienvenidos a las noticias de France 24.
Available on cable and satellite systems and online media in France and around the world. In 2003, US armed forces invaded Iraq, setting in motion 15 years of violence. Once Saddam Hussein was ousted, the country unraveled into chaos. Iraq became breeding grounds for terrorism. The so-called Islamic State declared its caliphate there. Several years later, the Iraqi government was finally able to proclaim victory against the Islamic State organization. Rampant corruption, political divisions, and a lack of respect for women's rights, amongst a slew of other issues, continue to cripple life in Baghdad. However, bombings are now a rare occurrence. Sidewalk cafes, book markets, and art galleries are reopening, bringing a glimmer of hope to the Iraqi capital.
A wind of hope blows through Baghdad in Iraq. That's this week's Revisited here on France 24.